86% of the public think the NHS is in a bad state. 69% say the police are in a bad state. And 63% of the public say schools are in a bad state. So that's over a decade of the Conservatives in power. You're coming up to election. Over 80% of people think the NHS is in a poor state. You can't blame that on anyone. Where are you going to blame that? Apart from if you're Kemi Badenoch or Suella Braverman.
Trans people.
I was going to go for the immigrants, but
that was what I initially went for. But then when you said Kemi, I thought, no, what's more culture war?
You're right.
I tell you what, the NHS is blocked up with all of this fucking gender affirming surgery. That's what it is. 7 billion people on the waiting list. 7 million people on the waiting list, all because we're just trying to make people feel more comfortable in their bodies. It's wrong. It's wrong, Ava. It's disgusting. That'll be the speech. Done.
You know that tax, so part of the One Nation tax cut girlies.
Yes, okay.
They're the future of the party, I think. I think that.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I think that we're going to have, leading up to the election, we're going to have this massive culture war argument. It's going to be ugly, bloody, disgusting, right? We're going to have a different person being subjected to, a different group being subjected to, press torment for the next few months and debated. And then I think Keir Starmer will be elected, and I think you're going to have an opposition that is made up. The leader is going to be someone you don't really know, the wider public hasn't really heard of before. It's going to be a One Nation guy, and they're going to go back to small c conservatism, and they're going to rebuild that party without any of the culture war hype.
I see it differently, to be honest with you.
Really?
I do. I see, as you mentioned earlier, right, the Conservatives have moved to the right. Keir Starmer has pulled Labour to the right and taken up all of that space. If you think of the electorate as being on that sliding scale, which I know obviously they're not, it's a gross oversimplification, but if you think as the Conservatives move more to the extreme, that leaves more and more people to the left of them. And so Keir Starmer can position himself on the left flank of the Conservative Party, which is far more to the right of where Labour has ever been, well, recently anyway, since Blair. And then all of those people behind him are left with no alternative but to vote for the Labour Party as the only credible vehicle for a left-wing or progressive government. That's the position. And I don't think the Conservative Party, in response to that, tries to compete with him in the centre. I think the Conservative Party pursues a more radically right-wing, rabid right-wing agenda in the same way that you could look at the popularity of AfD in Germany or Vox in Spain. I think we have to think about our politics in relation to those political forces and political currents that are currently swirling around Europe, which is whereby basically young people, and Israel actually, whereby young people are turning to a more hardcore right-wing nationalist perspective. It's not happening here yet. And I think if you're a conservative strategist, you kind of look at the way that those movements are taking off in Europe, and you say and actually the conditions in Britain are right for it, right? Huge disillusioned younger cohorts can't get on the housing ladder, settled with student debt, poor employment prospects, and thereby comes the extreme right wing politics that becomes far more acceptable and believable when your economic conditions are poor, that you blame the other. Classic fucking Hannah Arendt fascism, right? Who's the other? And it can be anyone. It could be trans people. There's not enough of them probably. So you're talking migrants, etc. That's possibly where I see this going. And if the centre fails, that's where politics goes.
I'm compelled to agree with you.
But,
however,
yeah, let's go.
I would also, on a pure human nature argument, right? Conservatives like to take what other people have. Sorry, but I thought
that was the socialists. I thought that's what we did.
Yeah, but you never see a conservative. If a conservative, a landlord, for example, okay, he doesn't go to an open spot of land and just buy a new plot and build some houses. No. He's buying your house and he buys the whole street and he doesn't care about it. If Keir Starmer is to take over right up to the centre right, yeah, the Conservatives, I think, in reaction to that will go, no, we want it back. and we want it to be bloody, and we want it.
Yeah,
My
that's
argument's
true.
nowhere near as good as yours. I'm
No,
just
it
thinking on a pure revenge arc, I think they'd want it back.
I think in terms of whether it's a possible electoral strategy, yeah, they can compete on the centre, and that would be the sensible thing to do. It's just whether or not that is what happens. I think increasingly. We've said it before on the podcast loads of times that age is going to be the battle line, the fault line, right? And it just depends. The Conservative Party reinvents itself time and time and time again, and if Keir Starmer becomes the Prime Minister of the status quo of orthodoxy, i.e. general declinism, broadly stable / increasing house prices, and the triple lock on pensions, the Conservative Party reinvents itself, becomes the party of disruption. I think if Keir Starmer doesn't have a good foot, doesn't address the structural issues in the British economy in his first term, I think it's quite possible that he's a one-term Prime Minister. And the
Starmer?
Yeah. Because he's 100% cashing in on people's dislike of the Conservative Party right now. He will not have very long to come up with a programme of government. Shock, the Tony Blair Institute has a great deal of policy research and policy proposals sitting and waiting. What should we do about crime? How do you feel about a digital ID card, Keir? Oh, I don't actually care what you think. Here's the research. Here's what we've concluded. Let's roll them out. Whatever it is. I think he has very little time to come up with a program for government. And if people don't buy it, he will be out, and the Conservative Party can reinvent itself as the disruptor, as the party of the youth, and sort of capitalise on that disillusionment. I think that's a viable strategy for them. And all of this has to be caveated, right? We're talking about, this is political predictions, which are broadly speaking a bit of a
who's going to reinvent them? Who's going to do it? Because the typical person or strategist who would have reinvented them has already had their chance with Liz Truss, and it failed, right? Yeah. So the IEA had their moment.
Their experiment, right?
And they failed. And you think about Nick Timothy again. He's writing, or Dominic Cummings, all of these, the people who really cared about the ideological soul of the party.
Yeah.
They are now completely unenthused by it.
Yeah.
It's not sexy to be a Conservative right now.
No.
The brand is diluted. It's toxic. That's it. The brand is toxic.
Completely toxic. But equally, I think people underestimate how I'm just going to keep talking about Blair. People underestimate how toxic Tony Blair is. And
yeah, typically.
No. Regular people, normal people, know Tony Blair to be toxic. The amount of times I have a conversation with anyone about politics, like literally anyone, it could be the barber, it could be a random man in the pub. 9 times out of 10, someone will say, he's a war criminal, we should be in The Hague. 9 times out of 10. I don't think there has been a more toxic politician since Thatcher than Tony Blair. Fine. If Blair cozies up to Keir Starmer, and I suspect the way that they are collaborating, both the Tony Blair Institute and the Starmer Project, I think he underestimates the negative electoral consequences that happen as a result of that. And if Blair and Starmer, in the same way, trust me, the Telegraph, the Times, the Spectator will love to hear, in the same way that, we progressives talk often about, how Rupert Murdoch will go for dinner with the Prime Minister of the day. You will be getting daily updates about Keir Starmer and Tony Blair's rendezvous, conversations, etc. And the electorate will not like it. Will not like it. I love that we've just gone full send into like complete speculation, projection about the future. But that's my take.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you won't speculate for a really long time, and then there's a beaver born in Ealing.
And you get to speculate about the wetland.
Yeah.